Meanwhile, we got to move on to Tickety-Boo News. You know, one of the things, there's a great line in Steven Pinker's book, Enlightenment Now, where he says success erases its own footprints. And that is one of the things that I think keeps the Democrats in business, because conservatives solve the problems. They raise the problems, conservatives solve the problems, and then they take it to the next level. So, you know, the Civil Rights Act, a greater percentage of Republicans voted for it than Democrats. I think after that, there was really not much more the government could do to help the lives, to help us become a more just and fair country. But the Democrats just keep saying, oh, we're oppressed. Well, how are you oppressed? Well, people look at me funny when I get in an elevator, and cops stop me more when I drive through rich neighborhoods. No, that's not oppressed. That's not oppression. Those are like minor little glitches in your life that you can learn to live with and talk about. So maybe they'll go away over time, but that is not oppressed. You know, that is not what oppression looks like. So they keep upping the ante. There was a piece in the Wall Street Journal yesterday or the day before by Bruce D. Meyer and James Sullivan, who had written a report which said, based on this is from the White House Council of Economic Advisors. They helped write this report for the White House Council of Economic Advisors, which said, based on historical standards of material well-being and the terms of engagement, our war on poverty is largely over and a success. And they point out that neither the right nor the left wants to admit this. The left, because they always want to expand social programs, because that's their campaign. We will give you free stuff. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is like, we will give you free stuff. How do you pay for it? Yesterday they said, how will we pay for it? Well, we had wars and we didn't pay for those. Yes, that was a bad idea. You do not want to run on bad ideas. You want to run on good ideas. Try that. Not bad ideas. Yes, good ideas. That will help Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez do much better going forward. None of the candidates she endorsed, by the way, won. So she's not as powerful as people think she is. Anyway, the thing that they're saying is they keep that, and now the right doesn't like it because they don't like to admit that maybe the war on poverty was a success. But what these guys say is, if instead of focusing on reported incomes, what they did was they measured poverty based on consumption, because when you look at just incomes, you're not including all the good things that these government programs have given them. So you're not including all the other benefits they get. So he says, they say we measured what food, housing, transportation, and other goods and services people are able to purchase. This approach, which captures the effect of non-cash programs and accounts for the known bias in the measurements, demonstrates clearly that there is much less material deprivation than there was decades ago. Other indicators support this finding. According to the American Housing Survey, the poorest 20%, listen to this, the poorest 20% of Americans live as the middle class did a generation ago, as measured by the square footage of their homes, the number of rooms per person, and the presence of air conditioning, dishwashers, and other amenities. In terms of housing problems like peeling paint, leaks, and plumbing issues, today's poor haven't quite matched the living standards of the 1980s middle class, but they are getting close. The 1980s is not that long ago, so they're saying that our poor are like the middle class of the 1980s. That is amazing. You know, one of the experiences I had when I came into Nairobi in Kenya, went on one of these kind of safaris, and we came in through Kenya and we drove through into Nairobi, and we drove through their slums. And I looked out the window and I thought, oh, I get it. There's no poverty in America. There is nothing in America that looks like this. Now, today there are in some leftist cities where the homeless are on the streets, and that looks a little bit like what Nairobi looks like. But these were places where people had to walk with a bottle on their head to get water. These were places where they were living in sheds that were built of, pressed tin with cardboard walls and pressed tin roofs and all this stuff. They were just living in sheds, lean-tos. In America, things are going really well. And this is the thing about all the panic on the air and all the screaming on the air and all the stuff, the clickbait and the panic. Things are going, life is tickety-boo in this country, pal. And like, we should really be enjoying it. We should be grateful for it. Doesn't mean we shouldn't see the problems. Doesn't mean we shouldn't fix them. But you can fix a whole lot more in gratitude and come together a whole lot more in gratitude than you can in bitterness and by pretending that the problems are still the same as they were 50, 60 years ago. They are just not. That is amazing tickety-boo news that really our the 20% poorest people in this country are living like the middle class did a generation ago. Amazing stuff. All right, we will be back tomorrow, which is the last day before the Klavanless weekend. So be here to suck out every drop of Klavan-y goodness before the Klavanless weekend begins. It's like being a Klavan camel. You got to be like a Klavan camel. Suck out the goodness, and then you can make it across the desert of the Klavanless weekend to the next Monday. I'll be here. You'll be here too. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is the Andrew Klavan Show. The Andrew Klavan Show is produced by Robert Sterling. Executive producer, Jeremy Boring. Senior producer, Jonathan Hay. Our supervising producer is Mathis Glover. And our technical producer is Austin Stevens. Edited by Emily Jai. Audio is mixed by Mike Cormina. Hair and makeup is by Jesua Alvera. The Andrew Klavan Show is a Daily Wire Forward Publishing production. Copyright Forward Publishing 2018.